trauma stuff. It's taken a while to figure out, but it makes a lot more sense after I realized how much shit doesn't make any sense. Hi, friends, it's Adam, the crippled cannabis cowboy. Thanks for watching my video about trauma. It's really handy. So if you learn something, you see something you like, subscribe to the channel and help me out a little bit. Trauma is a big deal. And the more I sit in this traumatic situation, the more I kind of start to understand how trauma works. I don't want to say I know how it works, but I'm starting to kind of get a clue to how trauma works. First of all, understand that trauma really does store itself in your body. Whether you face it or not, facing a traumatic situation will help you deal with it better. But ultimately, trauma kind of resides in your body somewhere. And it's weird when something happens to you and it brings up this old trauma you maybe went through, but it's an old traumatic feeling, but it's a new traumatic situation. So that kind of was the first thing. It's like, hey, wait a minute, this is new, but this experience that I'm feeling is older. So there's the past traumas, there's the present traumas, and there's a possible future trauma that I have to watch out for. It's not like I know what kind of traumatic situation is coming in the future, but I can maybe be prepared for it. Preparing to brace for a traumatic situation is it's hard to say. Like, I now that I know that, maybe if I saw a traumatic situation coming, I could prepare myself to expect the unexpected. It's not like there's a secret clue that lets me know what kind of trauma I'm going to experience. The example for that is, like, say, getting yelled at by somebody you really revered, like you looked up to them, and maybe they bullshit you. Maybe there's something they did that you didn't like. That's a certain kind of trauma. It's going to be traumatic to deal with. Then there's like the other traumatic. At the same time, something else could be happening in your life. Like, for example, with me, with all this crazy other stuff going on, there was a woman that decided to leave me behind and kind of like separate themselves from me, and they ultimately led to a lot of trauma. Now, I don't know much about the psychology behind trauma as far as like the terminology and stuff, but I know, like, for example, getting dissed by a woman or a mom and being separated and thinking that was your friend, and this person is so amazing, or maybe you're friends with their offspring and there's a certain kind of bond. Now, when that is broken off, there's gonna be trauma no matter what. It's gonna be a traumatic situation. How I decide to handle that is kind of what makes me me. I I don't know if this is true, but from what I've been hearing, when it comes down to like getting over trauma or facing trauma, one of the telltale signs that I could tell is, like, say if 18 months goes by or like a year and a half goes by, and I can think of this person, but then I get upset all over again and I remember all these traumas that maybe they caused, or maybe they, in some way, I associate them with this trauma. And it's going to take a while, but if a year and a half has gone by or 18 months has gone by, then I know for myself that I didn't face that trauma. That's something I didn't want to look at. Now, I did notice that there are certain traumatic situations that people don't want to look at. I've seen it happen several times. I've brought it up. I'm that kind of person that might mention something about a traumatic situation that somebody else saw in their life, but they don't want to talk about it then. That's understandable. What that tells me is that they haven't been able to face it yet. So if I want to continue a conversation in the future, I have to make sure that they have like faced the traumatic situation and learned the best way that they can deal with it. It's up to the traumatic situation, if that makes any sense. Well, it's up to the individual if they can handle the trauma. I did notice for myself, like, it takes a certain amount of time to get through a traumatic situation. Like, there are people that, like, I literally can think of and be like, oh, okay, it is what it is, and I hope they're doing well with their life, and I have these different thoughts. And then there's the situations that if I think of someone and they pop in my head, and all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, fuck that person. They did this. They bullshit me with that. That's something that tells me there's something there. I don't have any answers, but it points out a traumatic situation that it doesn't matter if it brings up an old traumatic situation. I still haven't found my way to deal with whatever that traumatic situation happened to be. It absolutely does make everything worse. It'll make the way you feel worse, your symptoms or whatever's happening to me. It absolutely will make me worse if I don't find a way to handle this new plate of food that I'm getting. So I've found in time that there really is no pre-way or like a way for me to know that I am prepared. It's kind of like I just got to ride the train until it crashes. I'm on a trauma train, and being on a trauma train fucking sucks. I'm sure if you're like me, that's a traumatic situation in itself. So anything that relates to that is going to be traumatic. So they kind of all connect together. Then it's like, is it bringing up an old traumatic feeling? Is it a present trauma in your life at this moment that you're associating with an old traumatic feeling that you already know about? Is a future traumatic situation scaring the shit out of you? These are things that you are going to have to face when you're like me. It's not pleasant. Like I said, there really is no plan. You just got to ride the train until it crashes. Just hopefully you can ride that train. I don't want to say properly. There's no real proper way to ride a train until it crashes.